Morning, assuming you're in the same time zone as I am. We're just letting some more people coming on. I hope you're not too hot. The weather seems to have improved in the sense of it's cooler. Not sure that we normally say that, but I was watching something on the box last night and the farming program on the radio this morning, with extolling all the problems that people are having. I will wait a second more. We've got 22 people on so far. If they're still coming in, I'll watch on my screen. Right, it's not going up, so I'll ask you to all join me in thanking Kristen, who's on the screen. You should be able to see. She is the Director of External Affairs at the CIARB, which is obviously a very important organisation, not just in relation to mediation, but arbitration, adjudication, and all other kinds of things, based in Bloomsbury Square in London. I'll also with us is Ryan, her colleague, who is currently an intern in the, I think, dispute resolution appointments department or service. So if I can invite Kristen then to explain her role and tell you all about what the CIR is doing for you, as the BBC advert now says.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, thanks everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. I think some of you are dialing in from around the world. It's a pleasure to be here with you. My name is Kristen Bauer, and as Owen said, I'm the Director of External Affairs here at the Chartered Institute in London. So I oversee our policy department, and recently took over the role of reviewing and modernizing, I should say, our dispute appointment service. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that. So on the policy side, basically we cover all of the resources for ADR professionals. Things are mostly things like our professional practice guidelines. And I will say we are in the midst of updating our mediation guidelines and rules. So I will talk a little bit about that when I get into sort of updates on our side. The second area the policy department covers is that we produce all the research and insights for the Institute. So we're responsible for publishing our peer-reviewed academic journal, which comes out 4 times a year. We work on global reports and things with surveys with partners. You may have seen recently, we just published a report on experts and how to maximize the effectiveness of experts within arbitration. And then our third area that we cover on the policy department is all of our kind of global external affairs and stakeholder engagement and advocacy. And so that includes everything from the kind of multilateral level, representing CIARB on the UNCITRAL working groups that work on harmonizing international trade law and produce model law instruments, all the way down to working with members and branches on areas of national level reform, including things like consultations with governments, comments on draft laws, etc. So we have a big remit over here, and I recently took over a dispute appointment service, which we'll talk a little bit more about later in our hour. And let me see if I see Ryan on the screen. I just want to
Oh,
give
yes, I'm
for
here.
Ryan to introduce himself and
Sure.
say a
Yes,
few
hi
words.
everyone. My name is Ryan Pungantra. I work with the CF Dispute Appointment Service. I am a lawyer qualified in India and I did my LLM in dispute resolution from QMUL, and that's what brought me over to this side. So it's my first time at the Breakfast Club, so I'm here more to listen to what people have to say, but happy to chat about the that side as well in case any questions come up.
Excellent. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, but
All right, so I'm gonna share my screen. I have a few slides for us today. Let me see if I can do that effectively here. Okay, are you able to see my slides?
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
Yes. All right. Okay, so if I change the slides, are you able to see that as well?
Yes, I
Yeah.
believe so. It's on
Okay.
roadmap.
So just a short roadmap of what I'm going to cover today was just a quick overview of CRB. I think many of you are members. Some of you may not be. I'm going to touch a little bit on updates about what our membership looks like now in terms of the makeup and profile of folks. A little bit about our global presence. I think it's one of the best things about this organization is its global network and how much we have grown and what that looks like in different corners of the world. Very briefly on some ADR developments, actually more probably relevant would be talking about some of the CR developments and things going on. And we'll talk most acutely about the dispute appointment service and what we're doing to kind of modernize that appointing service on our side. So quick overview of CR, we are a global professional membership body committed to supporting effective dispute resolution. I think relevant to this group, despite our name, we champion all aspects of ADR, including mediation, adjudication, dispute boards, expert determination, the whole gambit. We are truly a global organization. As I said, we have currently around 17,500 members in 150 jurisdictions. So how we operate is a kind of hub and spoke model. I think, as most of you know, with our origins here in London, we are headquartered here in London, and we have 44 branches around the world. And just to give you a snapshot of what last year looked like, we trained over 4,000 people in 2025. And we have a very big online social media presence. Hopefully all of you are subscribers to our various newsletters. If you're a member, we have our eSolver, which comes out monthly. We have a Resolver, which is a quarterly kind of interactive magazine for members. We have a LinkedIn newsletter that has more than 150,000 or 120,000 followers, I should say. So it's a really active network and a place to plug in where we highlight, members' voices and work that's ongoing, ADR developments, etc. So just again, to give you a kind of snapshot of what the membership looks like currently. So our membership is made up of ADR professionals that tend to fall into three groups. So currently we have about 55% who are lawyers or legally trained, have a legal background, and about 45% who are non-lawyers who come from a technical background. They fall into this kind of mix of roles. We've got neutrals, folks who are mediators, adjudicators, judges, folks who are counsel, maybe representing parties in arbitration. We have a lot of in-house counsel, transactional lawyers as well, who are advising on dispute resolution. And then we also have a whole host of experts, whether it's engineers or quantum experts, surveyors, architects, accountants. Our members kind of tend to wear many hats and switch between these roles, but just wanted to give you a kind of broad sense of what the membership looks like. This also, I'm going to go into the regions a little bit more later, but just to give you a snapshot of this is new members. So this is a snapshot of what the membership is looking like as of July this year. So this is a 2026 new membership snapshot, which is kind of growth areas. For us, we are growing steadily in the Asia Pacific region as well as in Africa. So this doesn't give you the current profile of what the membership breakdown looks like. I'll show you that in a few slides, but this is just to give you the year to date what 2026 growth looks like in terms of new members and new areas. In terms of membership, we kind of have we offer different membership levels. So from kind of student, associate member, fellow, and chartered. We really aim to offer support for ADR professionals coming into the field at to basically achieve their professional goals at any stage of their career. And we try to offer products and services kind of at all of those various stages. So whether you're just starting out as in the field of ADR, you're coming in as a parallel profession, as most people do, or you're a really experienced practitioner, we have a kind of route for you or a membership level for you. As I said, we do offer membership pathways in all three disciplines, so not just arbitration, but also mediation and adjudication. And let me just snip through this. This is just a bit more about how to become a member. So we have our kind of essentially two buckets, two ways. So we've got a kind of training and assessment route, which is where you learn about a specific discipline. I think we were just talking before we started. Sometimes this is when folks are coming in from parallel professions, maybe technical professions. They want to get into arbitration or participate as an expert, or they want to become a mediator, and therefore want to benefit from that practical kind of training aspect. It's also for folks who maybe have been in the profession in various aspects in different capacities and want to strengthen their knowledge or want to specialize in a new area of ADR. So we have many arbitrators jumping ship to become mediators because they are finding it so effective, especially in the civil commercial space. So that's kind of one pathway, I would say. The other pathway is an experienced practitioner route. So for folks who are already experienced in the profession, who want to come in at different levels, we offer a kind of non-training and assessment route for those folks who want to join for the CPD, for the network, for the ongoing benefits. I will skip through kind of the education and training portion, and please reach out to me. I'm happy to share these slides later. And I can tell you a bit more about our various courses and training programs. But in a nutshell, maybe I'll summarize, which is that we have virtual self-paced options. We've got accelerated routes, which are short 3 to 5 day interactive courses. And then we have full diploma programs that are virtual, hybrid, and in person. This includes things like our International Commercial Arbitration Diploma that takes place at Oxford every September. We have an APAC diploma that rotates between Hong Kong, Sydney, and Singapore. We have a specialized maritime diploma. And we kind of aim to offer a panoply of options for folks depending on what you're interested in. If it's more for intensive networking with a global group, the diplomas are a good option, and then kind of everything in between there and fully virtual. So again, I'll sort of whiz through that a little bit and talk a little bit about membership in the sense of what we've got going on at the Institute and what's happening. So I'm going to talk a little bit here. So I talked about our global network and how extensive that is. We're really working at the Institute to focus more on members. I know that sounds intuitive, but I think we've been in a period where the Institute has grown a lot and there's been a lot of growth in different directions, but we have a new CEO. His name's Don McIntyre, and he's joined the Institute just over a year ago. He came in an interim capacity and the board have just made him permanent. And under his leadership, we now have a new strategy that is focused on 3 pillars, one of which is to strengthen the global member value proposition and refocus on members. Classic things like, helping to raise your profile, career, kind of, really nuts and bolts aspects of how to get appointments, how to get mentorship, whether it's co-mediation or shadowing mediation. How do we create more of these opportunities for folks within the profession? So that's pillar 1, which is strengthening the membership value proposition. Pillar 2 is about an investment in education, training, and capacity building. We previously have been really focused on what we think is the gold standard for education and training and arbitration, mediation, adjudication, that leads to membership and a certification and a qualification, which is hugely valuable and something that is still very much in demand globally. But one of the things we want to focus on are developing more kind of CPD, ongoing learning type of skills-based offers for our members, so that I guess both for members and non-members, so that there's always a suite of really high quality courses available for folks to continue to upskill, reskill as things change. We ran a mediation series last year, kind of CPD series, that included things like virtual and hybrid mediations from some of the best mediators in the world, talking about how they're running those on a very practical level, not real theoretical, but the kind of tips and information, breaking down how they're doing private sessions, how they're lengthening proceedings a little bit in the run up to the mediation to facilitate that the kind of hybrid virtual dimension. So those are the types of courses that we want to invest in, because again, we see that feedback loop into supporting members through their professional journey, which is sort of just core to CRB. And the third pillar under our new strategy is about modernizing our global governance structures. And this is really about the fact that we are that hub and spoke model, and it's a pretty intensive business, operational, financial model to kind of move all those bits and pieces around. And that's really about the kind of underneath it all, the unseen infrastructure that is required to kind of make the Institute work better. But against that, we are working towards developing more, like I said, products and services for members to help them advance their career. So I'll touch on some of the things that are kind of ongoing and new. So like I said, we have lots of monthly newsletters and knowledge pieces that are available. So we've got our monthly eSolver newsletter, our Resolver, which is our online magazine, the Journal, which is not just about arbitration, again, despite its long name up here on the screen. It is something that focuses on dispute avoidance, on mediation. So we really welcome your submissions. We have set submission dates, and happy to share that information with this group. We've got a new global editorial board, and it's a really high quality peer-reviewed journal that focuses, or that aims to really marry the kind of hybrid with academic, because I think especially in the mediation space and lots of ADR practical learnings, lessons, data, information in the publication space is super valuable. So it's not just a journal that's focused purely on theoretical kind of academic research. And it's a great place to kind of, if publishing is your itch, it's a great place to read and get information, but also to raise your profile and talk about issues that lie within your expertise, and we're happy to highlight those. We focus a lot on leveraging the amazing expertise of our global membership through thought leadership. So we've got networking events, big and small, taking place at Dispute Speaks around the world. And our aim is, again, to connect our members globally, no matter where you are. So if you've gone from London to Birmingham, or if you've gone from London to Kigali or to Singapore, we hope that we aim to kind of bring events, networking events, thought leadership events to our members, and provide that connectivity to the CRB network around the world. Let me see here. I will touch a little bit about some of our recent developments that I mentioned. Our department oversees our professional practice guidelines. We have 32 of those. About 19 are arbitration focused. We've got 8 that are mediation focused. And like I said, we're in the process of updating those. We have a new mediation committee, and we are they are just woefully out of date and in need of some modernization. So we're in the process of updating those mediation guidelines. And we also have a handful of adjudication guidelines as well. We have a new report out, which you can see on the screen, on party-appointed expert witnesses in international arbitration. I would say it's not light reading. It's pretty long, but it is extremely extensive. It was a really, really fabulous effort of truly hundreds of people. We ran a global survey last year on experts and how to maximize their effectiveness within proceedings. You know, there's complaints from experts about outcomes of arbitrators' decisions, sometimes arbitrators, sometimes counsel, complain about, you know, all form of, I would say, not pointing the finger, but sometimes the expert witnesses or expert reports are not used effectively. And we aim to, the aim of this report and the survey was to understand why. What are some of the root causes of that? Is it timing in the procedural timetable? Is it, you know, a whole host of things, how things are organized, and what can we do to maximize that and make it work better. So I do encourage you to read it. It's free. It's on our website. And again, happy to share links to any of our recent publications, but that's something that just came out last month. So just wanted to highlight that here. Okay, so I want to talk really briefly about just what our profile looks like in different parts of the world, because folks may not have a lot of visibility on that. And again, I think one of the great things about this network is whether you're based here and you're wanting to expand your network in certain markets, or you're interested about what's being, you know, what's happening in certain parts of the world, we hope to connect you there because we have a really active global network. So just to give you a snapshot, in Africa, we have 8 branches. They're extremely active. They represent 15.5% of our global membership. Kenya and Nigeria are 2 of our biggest training hubs globally, not just in the region. They are, in Kenya, for example, the branch predates the legal framework for ADR. And so they were established back in, I want to say 84 or 87, somewhere in that time frame. And they, because of that, the branch was really part of driving the ecosystem around developing mediation and arbitration in Kenya, and therefore not just in Kenya, but also became ADR leaders in the whole continent. So very big part of our global network. So on the right screen here, that same graph will repeat through each of the regions, but that's again to just give you a sense of kind of what the current global makeup of our membership looks like regionally. Asia, as I mentioned, one of our big growth areas. We have 8 branches and 8 chapters in Asia Pacific region, which is very broad, kind of all the way from Central Asia, spanning down to Australia, New Zealand, Oceania. So extremely large region, which is probably why statistically it looks like a big composition of our membership. So it's about 27% of our members globally. We've got, like I said, branches in Hong Kong and Malaysia and Singapore, India, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Thailand, and we've got a bunch of chapters, which are the ones sitting underneath in that bullet down below. CRB in Europe and the UK, for some reason the branch list is not showing up here, but we have 16 branches in Europe and the UK, which represents by and large the biggest demographic of CRB's membership. When you combine those two, we have about a dozen branches here in the UK, and we have a European branch, and then we've got some branches within Europe that are emerging, as well as a number of chapters in Europe. So still a consistently big part of our global makeup. And then finally, just a snapshot of CRB in the Middle East. We've got 6 branches in, I don't know why I said UAE, but in the Middle East, which represents 13% of our membership. And these are UAE, so in Dubai, in Bahrain, in Qatar, in Saudi Arabia, in Lebanon, and yes. And so that is I'm missing one from this list. Wow, I need to update these slides, apologies. So anyway, but this is another big active area and growth area for us at the Institute. Okay, conscious of time, I'm gonna just talk a little bit about snapshots in ADR. And I think what I wanna highlight here is what we're seeing changing in the global ADR market. So in the latest Queen Mary survey, the Queen Mary and kind of White case survey, we're still seeing international arbitration is remaining the default in terms of cross-border disputes. And what the data shows us is that 87% of respondents still prefer international arbitration. But what we do see depicted here is that, and we've seen this trend for the last 10 or 12 years, is that increasingly we're seeing respondents strongly prefer, that's the 48%, that where they're using international arbitration, that they combine it with other forms of ADR. And I think that's in line with what we're seeing with users globally, which is that they want disputes to be resolved efficiently and effectively, and increasingly in the last, let's say, 20 years, international arbitration is very effective for different reasons. It has its appeal in terms of party autonomy and the ability to bespoke procedure and the cross-border enforcement element. However, it is definitely not cost effective and time effective. Increasingly, those big cross-border cases take many years and are very expensive, much more expensive than litigation. And again, that's not the reason why parties are still preferring them. But I think what this highlights here is the trend that we're seeing increasingly to pull in those other methods of ADR and combine that with arbitration. So let's see. Oh yeah, I'll go back. I want to just talk a little bit about mediation. So, I've lost my slides. So, yes, we are seeing mediation being embedded in the whole legal infrastructure of the justice system much more broadly, rather than just as a voluntary option. So since 2024, we've seen multiple jurisdictions have moved to strengthen their mediation legislation through legislative initiatives. That includes India, Nigeria, of course, the UK and the post-Churchill reforms. We've seen recently a trend towards mandatory or court-annexed procedural reforms, again in the UK, in France, in Italy. We're also seeing support for multilateral instruments. I know the Singapore Convention has been around since 2019, or for several years, in terms of a framework for cross-border enforcement of mediation settlement agreements. And we're increasingly seeing more signatories. We have been a strong advocate with the UK government for them to ratify the Singapore Convention, which we think would be a good thing in terms of leadership and direction of travel for this jurisdiction to not just sign the convention, but also ratify it. We saw recently in 2025 the development of an international organization for mediation. It's the first IOMED. It's the first intergovernmental legal organization that's dedicated entirely to resolving international disputes through mediation. Its headquarters is in Hong Kong. And so we see these as really interesting kind of positive developments in terms of where the global mediation landscape is going and what is driving some of that change. Again, I think all of this is really around efficiency pressures from parties, and sensibly they are turning towards mediation. We see this reflected in rule changes that are happening institutionally. So basically all of the institutional rules we saw changed or being changed last year and in the last 2 years have reflected these developments for much more efficiency driving in the system, where there's ARB-Med-R or where there's mediation integrated into the dispute resolution clause, that it's not simply a box ticking exercise, and that we have institutional rules that then help support that, that process. Okay, I'm not going to touch too much more on this. This was just a bit more about developments in ADR in terms of institutional rules. And okay. And this is about our dispute appointment service. And since my slide doesn't seem to be showing up, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we'll talk a little bit about our dispute appointment service. Okay, can you all see me, hear me? Yes, okay. So So here at the Chartered Institute, we have a dispute appointment service. And as I mentioned, we're going through a period of modernization. So I can tell you a little bit more about that, which is that it's been around here in London. Let me start here. So we've got at the Institute, we have a dispute appointment service here run out of our headquarters in London, and we have dispute appointment services in 6 of our branches. So we've got Scotland, Ireland, Bermuda, Kenya, Nigeria, and I'm missing one more. But basically, we are acting as an appointing authority for arbitration, mediation, adjudication, a kind of handful of other specialized panels. And what we're aiming to do with this refresh is to actually just make the dispute appointment service work more effectively for our members, for dispute resolvers, and for users. So what that looks like is we have a series of lists, panel lists, and it hasn't always been extremely easy or transparent or clear for folks like yourselves to get on those lists, to understand the requirements, to understand the appointment process. So we're doing a big refresh with our branches to come up to, I would say, reevaluate that global framework and make it easier for folks like yourselves to understand which list to get on, where you may be a good fit to provide your services, and how to get appointments. So maybe let me pause there and see, Ryan, is there anything you want to add in terms of what we're doing within
Uh,
the dispute appointment service, what the current profile looks like?
yes. Yes, sure. Briefly, so since everyone knows DAS is the appointment sides of the CR, parties come to us either to make an appointment or probably give a short list of names which are selected, and we draw from our presidential panel of arbitrators, mediators, as well as adjudicators. And we have a lot of schemes. Many of you guys must be aware of the CMC and the fixed fee mediation scheme, as all familiar, as well as the business arbitration scheme. I've seen a lot of cases that come in where you need specific types of dispute handlers, senior arbitrators, practitioners, somebody with a niche kind of a field. So it's really exciting to see all those. And CIAB has been kind of like in this place as a role model and has been transparent so far. But a lot of practices can be improved where you can take better aspects into purpose and then make sure the appointments go out accordingly. People don't feel left out, because that's a major portion of our feedback that we have been listing out, that people are not actively going through the appointment. So yep, transparency is one thing that we can build up over here, and a lot of practices can be improved. So hence the modernization at the moment is going on. I've also had some brief expertise in online dispute resolution, where you kind of like have a platform access for most of the things, where you can easily automate a lot of things to make sure that you have time for actual things that need to be done. So that is also an aspect that I have kept in CR's mind. So yep, that's all for the time.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think our in addition to making sure that the panelist process is easy, more straightforward, less cumbersome and onerous in terms of getting onto lists, and also renewing your panelist certification through kind of CPD or reaccreditation, that kind of thing. We also are working to make sure that our lists are fit for purpose. So what happened over time is we had sometimes panel lists where we had the requirements for our most senior seasoned mediators to be working on the most kind of entry level, lower value disputes. And so as a result, those things are a little bit disproportionate. We have the same in arbitration. We have the same where we've got some of the highest requirements, people to have, that have 40, 50 years experience. And then they're receiving very low value disputes. And so what we're trying to reposition as we rethink these lists is to make sure that we've got the membership criteria, the recruitment criteria right, and that it's evenly matched with disputes, so that we can make sure that we're giving opportunities to the right folks as they're coming up and getting experience, and that we're not offering the types of disputes to dispute resolvers who already have a complex kind of workload or looking for different types of or have a different skill set in terms of their experience. And the final thing I'll mention is that we are really focused on bringing back opportunities for kind of mentorship. So let me tell you a little bit about what that looks like. So in years past, maybe 30 years ago, CRB used to have a pupillage program. And through our dispute appointment service, we had much more of an opportunity for folks to come up and kind of have that sort of pupillage in mediation or arbitration or adjudication. And that has gone away, I think primarily because as we moved from more of a UK centered entity into this global membership body, it became less clear how to sort of scale that mentorship and that offer. But what we have heard consistently from members, and I would say reciprocally on both sides, from members who both want experience on things like co-mediation opportunities, shadowing opportunities, and from folks who are very experienced who say, I would absolutely take on someone to shadow mediate with me or whatever, is that we want to bring back that kind of matchmaking type of opportunity within our dispute appointment service. So that is also on our list of things that are happening this year to help operationalize, which is again, create that list of members who are both willing to provide those mentorship opportunities and who are seeking that type of experience as they move along in their ADR journey. So I think with that, let me just pause there because I have monologued for a very long time and you've been very gracious, and we're super happy to take questions.
Thanks very much, Kristen. If I can suggest that anybody who's not got their video on, maybe puts it on just so that we can see people's reactions to anything that might be said. Question for me before we kick off with questions. Kristen, is it possible for you to send copies of the slides to me so I can forward on?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you. Right, I'll throw the floor open then to questions and or comments. We've got Bettina with her hand up, her virtual hand up. Hi, Bettina.
Hi, Dave. Hi, Kristen. Thank you very much for this kind of comprehensive kind of presentation. I have two questions. One is, how do you compare yourself with the IMI in regards to mediation?
That is a great question. Do you want to ask your second question and then I'll take both?
The second question is kind of if you could tell me why would I consider as a mediator and with a background in architecture membership with the CRB as well? And particularly when you're mentioning about, for me, I have only recently transitioned, like 6-7 months ago. And when you're talking about mentorship and opportunities to get people into, connected and so forth, that all sounds wonderful. But in the last 6-7 months, I have really done extensive networking, attended various events and so forth. And the biggest issue is, for example, observations and connecting with people and mentorship, because it is, in my experience, and as I'm already in the industry in terms of professionally for a long time, it's not my experience that this is an easy task. This is extremely difficult. So I'm wondering how you are now achieving that to be much more fruitful.
Thank you so much. So in terms of how we're different from IMI, so our mediation courses are IMI accredited. So we're different in the sense that IMI is a kind of standard setter and accreditation body in the mediation space. And so our mediation course material is all accredited by them. I would say in the arbitration space, we're more of a kind of standard setter in terms of the standards for our education and training. But for mediation, we collaborate a lot with the IMI. We work with all sorts of stakeholders. We are, in terms of thought leadership in this area, promotion events, etc. But yeah, that's how we vary in terms of our kind of role in the ecosystem. And we'll continue to work with IMI as we update and modernize our mediation to make sure it's still, or since it already meets the standards, but as we modernize our mediation education and training, we will continue to reaccredit with them because we think that's super important to have that global certification. In terms of how we're going to achieve the mentorship, I mean, this is such a good question because we don't yet have it totally unlocked. We have ideas about what we're going to do in terms of a repository of lists of folks, like I said, within the network who want to provide, who are offering that they would allow people to shadow, because we think giving that visibility to members is huge. So if within your jurisdiction, let's say, if we can even just create a small list of folks from within our branch network, when you go into your MyCR portal and you can say like, okay, if I'm here in the UK or I'm in Paris or I'm in, Geneva or whatever, I want to find someone who's nearby me who is willing to shadow or allow me to shadow, etc. We think that's a huge benefit. So we're exploring just kind of something as simple as updating those lists on the MyCR portal so that the folks who are willing to do it become more visible. And when you log in, you're able to see it. And then reciprocally that you're able to express interest. So one of the things we've been focused on is updating our information within our membership portal where folks can identify areas they have expertise in, they want to work in, etc., so that we can then send you information. Basically, we don't know if you're looking for mediation, a mentorship, and so we're trying to make those tick boxes essentially about your profile much more comprehensive, so that we can then send you the right set of opportunities.
I don't want to focus completely on myself, but as I have networked quite extensively in this last 6, 7 months, so it's the people tell me or exchange with me exactly the same experience.
Yeah.
So most of the mediators are coming from an extensive professional background previously.
Right.
If they are, obviously lots of lawyers, but like me, an even amount of people coming with other professional background.
Right.
So we have extensive professional experience in disputes already, just not in this, a dedicated mediation role, for example. And it's nothing more frustrating for the industry because we can sign up to lots of memberships, lots of networking events, and all these kind of things. That all of them have lists of people apparently prepared to offer mentorship observations, but there's an overwhelming amount of people who are trying to get this chance, and there are not enough people who are offering it. And as I said, the only thing hindering us to fulfill our mediations kind of skills or wishes to become working actively as a mediator is to get the chance to get job offers, so to speak. Because at the moment, all these providers, all these organizations, you can only do one major main training, and then you're beefing it up with little bits and bobs, obviously here and there, but we cannot have trained with everyone. So getting on a panel, getting these referrals, all of these organizations are very kind of keeping everything close to their chest. We are offering it to the people who paid for the training with our organization. And how is the industry envisioning to overcome this? Because I think you're missing a huge pool of talented people by refusing them to becoming active mediators.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's so frustrating when there's so many routes to entry in different organizations. I absolutely hear you. I think that's one of the reasons why we have an experienced route. Meaning, if you're already an experienced mediator, you don't want to do training, you don't want to pay for that training again, then there's no need. You can come in as an experienced practitioner.
But you're not having the official title of being an experienced mediator. You're an experienced professional in your previous career, where you obviously have dealt with disputes all the time. I mean, take me as an example, architects. We deal with disputes every single day. So we are just getting the reason why someone like me is transitioning is because you realize while you're in your profession, you're still one of the parties. So you cannot use the kind of more, in our opinion, effective dispute resolution of having someone neutral in the space. You can't be that person if you're one of the parties. So, but we have all indirectly mediated, but not in this official term that we can say, yes, we have done this official mediation. So it's this gap which we can't seem to close, because what does everybody want when they opt for mediation? We want an experienced mediator,
Right.
and ideally as cheap as possible.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Can I just come
Yeah,
in on that? For those who don't know, the list of attendees that I send around includes columns for people who are offering co-mediations or seeking
amazing.
co-mediations, and also offer observerships or are seeking observerships. The list runs to 1,000, almost, well, I think actually now exactly 1,400 people. Of that, something like 12 people have show themselves as offering observerships, me being one. And also to mention that in terms of mentorships, if anybody hasn't already contacted him, Roger Levitt, who's on the board of the CMC, has a program of mentorships or mentoring. So I urge you to contact him. If you haven't got his email address, I'm more than happy to put you in touch with him.
as I said, I may want to focus on the
Sorry,
organization.
sorry, Bettina.
Said I mainly wanted as well, kind of for someone like Kristen working for this organization, to what the organizations can do to allow people to become actively kind of involved. Because just buying those memberships, I mean, everybody promises the same things, but I am not yet convinced that any of them is really fulfilling this crucial step.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult. So that I think I'll say two things. One is I think that's why there's different levels of mentorship for meeting people where they're at in different parts of their career. As you said, when I say experienced route, it means you have some experience at that certain level. So you could, for example, with all of your professional background, come in on the associate level of experienced route, because you only need 6 months of ADR experience. And then you have access to the panel list, like I said, where we're recalibrating those so that the type of I hate to say low value, but the type of entry level disputes that you need access to and that we want to give folks access to are available. I think it's difficult to think about how to do it in a way industry-wide which isn't tied to experience or accreditation. I mean, I think that's really a quality control issue that helps give parties and users that trust that they need, and so I think there's probably not a good way to supersede experience. All we can try to do is recalibrate, like what we're doing, which is create the kind of entry-level stepping stone paths and recalibrate our lists so that we have opportunities for folks to come in, as you've said. And then thirdly, those kind of co-mediating, shadowing, observing opportunities as much as we can. I think the other thing is, I think that's really, it is difficult. It is very, very difficult, but I'm super happy to continue the conversation, Bettina, with you offline or over email or have a phone call. Cause I mean, it's, I hear what you're saying.
Thank you. I will do that.
Gerard, you have your virtual hand up. Welcome.
I do indeed. Morning all. Bettina, can I just check? So I heard all what you said, but are you talking more about CMC requirements for observations, or are you talking specifically about CIARB's membership?
I tried to establish, is it worthwhile getting this membership? Because, when you have already CMC, IMI, and other memberships, how many memberships is someone, to do? And because, as I said, I've talked to lots of people from getting into the entry point and experienced people. And I think the organization's missing this crucial point of, they all obviously want to have membership to sustain themselves. They also everybody wants to sell training because they want to sustain themselves. But these entry level people are refraining from taking more training or more advice or more memberships because they also need to get some work to earn some money to be able to pay for these kind of things.
So the big question then is how do I get more work? But I was picking up, because I've been through the same path that you're on, although I come from a legal background. Primarily, most sort of junior beginner mediators on this call and every one of Dave's sessions are looking for observations, and that's driven by the CMC's requirement, so you can get your CMC membership. And so what I heard you say sounded like you were talking about observations for CMC purposes, but you might have been just talking about CIARB's membership type.
Yeah. Yes.
And in which case, Kristen, if I've understood what you said earlier, they are what they are. No observations are required. It's more experience. And as you said, that experience is generic. It can include, Bettina, your architectural and previous professional experience, as well as mediation, ADR experience. But I think you also make another point, as like industry-wide mentorships. And I take the view every day is a school day. And, I don't mind getting observations, call it what you will, with anybody and everybody, because we're all different and we're all learning. So I think, everybody else on this call that might want to sort of put their thumbs up or something to say that they are having exactly the same worries and trials, because we all want work. And where does the work come from? And we're an unregulated profession. So there's a lady walking her dog at my window there on the other side of the road. I mean, she could put a brass plaque outside her flat and go, I'm a mediator, and sell herself on the internet. And she's perfectly within her rights to do that. Of course, we have higher standards. Yeah. We don't want to do that. So I'm rambling a bit now, but it's a perennial point. And I know Roger Levitt's looking at it. The CMC are looking at it. Other people, Dave, you might know, who said you don't get to become a fellow, or we impose an obligation on the senior members to say you don't renew your membership unless you look after the next generation. And I'm in my 60s and I'm the next generation. So it does, you don't have to be in your 20s and 30s. We need to all pull together. And I'm sure people on this call can help. We all need to sort of start doing this for ourselves, for the next generation. It's like when I'm driving my car and I get stuck behind a learner and I get a little bit impatient. I go, I was a learner once. I need to be patient for this driver. So we all need to do it. And I'm not quite sure how we're all going to do it, but we do all need to do it. I offer I train with the London School of Mediation. So they send anybody that wants an observation, they come to me, and that's who I tend to give my observations to. And I see people really driving. Don't be shy in going and asking people, really famous mediators, and just say, can I have an observation? They're quiet, and you go, and there's two. I'm going to shut up in a second, but just in my experience, because you sound really sort of passionate about it, and I'm sure there are others on the call who feel the same way. And Kristen, you guys are, you say you've got ideas, but how do we bring it all together? How do we? So, but we need to. I'm going to stop there.
But can I quickly respond to that? Sure. Sorry, I don't want to take everybody's time, but look, I have done my observations. I've got my CMC membership and all these kind of things. So I've been quite, I think, successful in starting off with all the usual things. It's this next crucial bit of thing. And that brings me to mentorship. I mean, as I said, I have a career of 30 years in architecture. I have through all my career, other people. And the crucial part, and there's a big mentoring scheme from the WAIA kind of thing, but we are in the architecture industry, mentoring is free. This is an honor. It's an honor to mentor a junior person because we are recognizing it's the next generation coming up behind us. What I experience in the mediation industry is everybody wants to make money out of it. They even want to charge £250 for an observation. And Roger, in my opinion, also charges for his mentorship scheme kind of thing. So it's this is what I'm saying. There's something wrong. We as an industry want to be recognized of having a skillful profession. How do we achieve that? Not only with a few experienced mediators in the field already in their 70s and 70s and so forth. The next generation, we need to make sure that they are also skillful because they are representing the profession as well. So why is nobody working on that? And because the young people coming after us, they don't have all the financial resources to go for thousands of training possibilities and pay for everything. They are willing to pay as soon as they get some money coming in.
My view, and I think it is widely shared, is that observations, call it, or mentorship, should be free.
Yeah.
Up to a point. I would differentiate between observations, which should not be charged for. It's a playing it forward thing. But there's also mentorship. So in my experience, there's now a growth within solicitors. So any lawyers, any solicitors on Listen Up, there's now a supervision thing. Family mediation practitioners, mediators have to have supervision 4 times a year. That is paid for, but it's 100, 150 quid or something. It's not that expensive. It's a professional requirement. In civil and commercial, we don't have that, but it's coming. Again, I think Dave Rogers already thinking about that. Others are already doing it, and there is a small fee for it. But that's a bit like what Dave does. So Dave, with the professional support thing that we do every other month, and that is free. And that is exactly the same thing that people are charging for. So bring us your worries, bring us your questions. How do I cope with blah, 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 blah. So Dave is already doing that. But that's widening out, and people will be charged for it. Solicitors are also now being supervised. It is like a sort of a therapy. It's a sort of psychological thing. I'm so much pressure. The partners are being even the partners are saying their partners are being too pressured on them. And it's about an hour, and it's every sort of 2 or 3 months. So what I'm saying is the industry wide, there are people, this practice is growing and growing and growing. And I'm keen to be part of it as well, because I find it beneficial, and I'm sure other people would. When I was a lawyer in the office in the city, they'd come in and close the door, and I'd be the one they talk to about what should I do about that, my career move. So we all need this, and I'm going to shut up now. But I think you're right. But and everyone is starting to think about it. And Kristen, happy to talk to you if you want to get some ideas about what CIARP could do. But then the final point I think you're making is everybody wants to make money, and we all want to do that through this profession of ADR. I think your point was we shouldn't be charging for all this mentorship and observations, should we? But in terms of the final bit is marketing. If you want to get work in our professions through ADR, then you've got to work it out, and that's pretty much a sole. There isn't much help on that. There are people out there. But it's how do you get the work? And I don't necessarily think you need mentorship or even CMC membership and observations. That's just an upskilling. You don't need any of that to go and get work. And that's an even bigger question. I'm going to shut up now.
No, super, super, super helpful. I agree with that. And we see the same in other ADR professions, which is, do you have a website? Do you have a profile? Are you visible? Are you marketing yourself to the types of clients that you're trying to tout, if it's in a certain industry like architecture, or if it's just to get experience, get on your, on your court's mediation lists, because those will have certain requirements. Sometimes court rules do. I mean, there's lots of things. I mean, I come from the US, as you may have observed by my accent, and we do millions of mediation per year. It's a huge part of the domestic landscape, and I have lots of things we could bring to this jurisdiction, or indeed, I don't know where you are, Bettina, in terms of how to connect those, particularly the court annexed, to dispute resolvers, in terms of how to get on those lists and local lists, etc.
We're coming up to the end of the hour. Suzanne Ingram, not the one that I met for the first time on Monday, a different one, has posted something in the chat, but maybe, Suzanne, do you want to pose the question direct online?
Yes, my bandwidth is low, which is why I put it in the box. Thanks, Dave, and thanks, Kristen, for your presentation. I just wondered, is there a link between? Are there any links between the CMC and CIARB and and other organisations? There are lots of different organisations, and I don't know how they all sort of link together, if they do, or if there are plans to. So that's my question. Thank you.
Yes, yeah, great question. We do have direct ties to the CMC. We have a CMC fixed fee mediation scheme where we make appointments and have like a reciprocal setup where if you're credited through CMC or through us, you can are eligible to be on that scheme. We also kind of light touch work together with the various kind of stakeholders in the mediation ecosystem here in the UK. We've talked with the Bar Council, with RICS, with CMC, with the Law Society, and with the ADR judicial group about how we can connect dispute resolvers directly to some of the disputes now coming out of being like triaged out of courts through this court annex scheme. And we will do more in this area to kind of help close that gap, because there is court backlog. There is now this mandate for more mediation and ADR, and we've got accredited, qualified dispute resolvers with experience, which is what you need. And you don't want to sacrifice, as Gerard said, because you don't, as you have in many jurisdictions where mediation is evolving, you always see that mushrooming of people being like, I'm a mediator. And what you want is still that, to maintain that quality, so that there is a benchmark of trust, and that actually mediators are able to deliver on the promise of mediation in an effective way that drives trust with users through the ecosystem. So acutely to your point, we should be doing more as that group to work together to drive to close that gap between the dispute resolvers who meet those thresholds and the disputes that are available. So that's the everlasting question, as Gerard said, but actually there's lots of tangible things we can do to move that forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. That answers the question, I should say.
Have you got time, Kristen, for one or two more questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, a quick one from me. I'm a non-practicing member of the Academy of Experts, okay, and a former council member. How much contact, because you've mentioned experts appointments quite a lot, how much contact do you have with the Academy?
I don't know if I have any contact with them currently. I would love to reconnect with them. We are working with the International Bar Association, IBA, on a new joint guideline on experts that's coming out of the work, the analytical work we did with the Global Survey. And we're also doing a joint protocol with the Society of Construction Law folks that's more in that, just in that construction domain. But I don't have any current contact with the.
Okay, I'll put you in touch with the chief exec.
Great.
Nicola Cohen. Time for one more question or comment, if there are any. Otherwise, I might pick on somebody. Crystal, I've got a question for you. Have you got a new hairstyle? Where have you gone? You've disappeared. Are you hiding? Well, I'll have to email her. Anybody with any last comment or question? Okay, well, I'd like to obviously thank Kristen for a very thorough and informative talk. I'm sorry that she may have been under the cosh a bit about getting more observers and mentorship.
This is
but I'm afraid that that's a bit par for the course for anybody
Yeah.
who has the ability to influence such things. And I'm pleased for Ryan to have joined us as well. So I think that's more or less the end of the formal part of today's meeting. You should have had notification of the next meeting, and one of our first timers is going to be the speaker. So I'll ask the first timers to introduce themselves, assuming they're still on, in alphabetical order. Stephen Hibbert, you're going to be our speaker next.